Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is Day-Glo Buffalo and this is Let's Play Leather Goddesses of Phobos. When we last left off, we were at the baby dock, one of the docks along the Martian Canal. And we had just gotten out of a barge that we were traveling in, so the only way to go is north, so let's move on. Among the dunes, you're in a tiny basin protected by dunes from the fierce Martian winds. The dunes are impassable, except to the south. A strange alien, probably a member of one of the ancient warrior races of Mars, lies dead at the base of a dune. Lying next to the body, partially buried in the sand, is a strange coded message. The alien may have died from acute chapped lips, a perennial problem in the arid Martian climate. If so, it was a sudden death, for the lip balm near the body is completely unused. Trent follows you. So first we want to take the lip balm, which might be very useful. And then we also want to take the message and read the message. And it's gibberish, only it's not. It is actually a coded message, and there's a way to decode this. Only that the hint to do that is not in the game. It's in one of the accompanying materials from the game. Infocom used to, it was a big selling point of their games that they always had extra materials along with the game in the box. In the case of this game, it was, of course, the scratch and sniff card. And then there was also a comic book, which was The Adventures of Lane Mastodon. If I'm not mistaken, it was number 91. Lane battles the leather goddesses, which is relevant to our plight here. And so in that comic book, which was, by the way, a 3D comic book in the style of like the 1930s Flash Gordon type of science fiction comic books, it was a 3D comic book, and you got a pair of 3D glasses along with the game in the box so you could read the comic book. Anyway, in the comic book itself, Lane Mastodon comes across a message, and he says it's gibberish. Only the professor that he is traveling with says, some messages from Mars that I picked up on my 4D Morse code receiver were in a 3-letter transposition cipher. To decode them, D becomes A, E becomes B, and so on. So every letter that we see on the screen, we actually have to count back 3 letters from that letter to get to the correct letter to solve it. So as he said, D, you go 3 letters back, becomes A, E becomes B, F becomes C, and so on. So you have to sit down, pencil and paper, and actually decode all this message, and I did. Found out it was still gibberish because the message is backwards. So you actually have to then invert the whole message, read it backwards, and then you actually get the correct message, which now I'm not going to sit down and decode it in real time for you because it would take a very long time and it would be very boring for you, even more boring than listening to this Let's Play. So, well, I've got the decoded version here, and it says, your mission is to contact wife number, let me see, it's 461, so it's 164, because it's backwards, 164 of the Sultan, and get the secret map. Identify yourself to her by asking her to kiss your kneecaps. Of course, it's a wife because you're playing as a guy. If you're playing as a girl, it's one of the husbands of the Sultaness. That's one of the ways in which the game changes. So we have to get to wife number 164 of the Sultan. So let me just actually write down the number because the number changes randomly every time you play. So you can't count on the notes you took last time you played. So it's 164, wife 164, very good. And we're done here and we can move on. Actually, let me save the game because that way the relevant number of the wife doesn't change. Even though we have the paper on us, we can always look her up. But anyway, let's save, get in the barge, and press our orange button again. So we're again traveling along the canal. Dock is visible on the southern shore, but we're going to ignore this for now because we can't do anything there right now, so let's just move on. Banks of the canal are steep and sandy, sculpted reddish sand dunes. We've all seen that. Just ahead, the canal curves sharply to the south. Now that is important because right after the curve, there are two docks. So the canal now goes from west to east and then curves and will continue from north to south. And on both sides of the canal, after the curves on the east and the west banks, there are both docks. But if we just travel along as we did now, just going with the flow, we're going to end up on the east side. No, on the west side of the dock, and we don't want that because we want to be on the east side now. We can do the west side later. And the only way to get to the east side at this point, actually the only way at all in the game, is to do it now on the barge by pressing the purple button and going full speed ahead, which will propel us to the east side of the canal after the turn. Here we go. The writing on the button changes quickly, changes as you press it. Royal barge chugs quickly around the bend, ending up near the eastern bank of the canal. Martian Canal near the east bank in the Royal barge. The Royal barge rocks gently in the current of the White Canal. There are docks on both banks. Just behind, the canal curves sharply to the west. So, since we're now on the correct eastern bank, we want to press the orange button to get ourselves moored. Now this is my kind of dock in the Royal barge. If I owned a pier on a major Martian canal, I'd want it to look just like this one. Handsome, well-proportioned, and amply endowed with jade and ivory. I could probably live without the alabaster stair which leads up to the end of the at the end of the dock to the east. Well, first of all, let's press the purple button again so that we get it back to normal speed. And get out of the barge. So we're now at my kind of dock, and we can go east into the main hall of Palace. Main hall of Palace, a shaft of sunlight penetrates the stained glass windows and glistens off a large reflecting pool. Filling this huge entry hall with a seductive pattern of tantalizing colors. Gleaming marble pillars rise majestically from the pool to support a towering arched roof. You are on a branching pathway suspended above the pool, leading toward shadowy archways in every direction. Trent trails along. Very good. First, we want to go south. Laundry room. One of the less pleasant aspects of running a palace is the sheer volume of dirty laundry its occupants produce. Why, the 8,379 wives alone could keep a crew of cleaners sleepless. Add in the servants, cooks, gardeners, stable hands, jesters, visiting nobles, brothers-in-law, and virtual permanent residents. Suffice it to say that there's one hell of a lot of dirty laundry here. You can barely see the exit to the north through it all. Today must be drying day at the laundry since there's only one clothespin left. Trent loyally stays at your side. So we want to take the clothespin. And actually let's put all in sack to reduce our inventory clutter. And let's go back north. Now from here we can go east or northeast. Let's go east first. Oriental Garden, these twisted trees and elegant footbridges are even more beautiful than the gardens of the most lavish Fu Manchu films. Paths from the north, southeast, and west meet at a large well of hand-carved stone at the center of the garden. Trent follows you. Well, there's a well. Let's look at well. Totally ordinary looking well. Can we look in well? Handholds lead downwards, so let's go down. You climb down the well for a long distance. Near the bottom, the handholds end. So you and Trent leap the rest of the way, landing on a black circle. You're sucked into the hole in the direction blah 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 blah. Now this is my kind of dock in the royal barge. A few seconds later, you see Trent's big toe appear, followed almost immediately by the rest of him. Now the important part of this is that the black circle at the bottom of the well transports us onto the barge, which will become important at a later point. So let's get out again. Let's go east again to the Oriental Gardens and southeast base of tower. A slender tower protrudes magnificently above the palace grounds. A stair winds up to the tower, and an Oriental garden spreads out to the northwest. So let's go up. Minaret. By standing erect at the parapet of this mighty tower, you command an exciting view. Below, gardens and courtyards intermingle with the palace buildings, forming a fertile oasis in the Martian desert. Off to the west, docks straddle the deep canal. On the far shore, sand dunes lap at crumbling buildings. On the top step of a winding stair is a black circle. Trent enters just a few steps behind you. Again, this circle is very useful, because if we stand in the circle, it's too dark to see a thing. A few seconds later, you feel Trent's left buttock appear, followed almost immediately by the rest of him. How do you feel his left buttock appear? That's nice. From here we can go down. You can't go that way, but suddenly part of the floor collapses and you and Trent tumble through the resulting hole. Cell. You see a tray here. So we're back in our original cell. Among the new rubble, you notice a black circle attached to a piece of what used to be the floor of the cramped space. So now we have a circle in our cell. What a great cell, says Trent, looking around. Why didn't I get a cell like this? Maybe I shouldn't have kicked that guard below the waist when I first got here. Well, yeah, that would probably piss him off. So the useful thing about this circle is that if we stand in it, it takes us back to the main hall of the palace. Otherwise, if we didn't go through this, we would not have, if we got back in the barge and left, we would not have any way, I believe, to get back to the palace. So by doing this, we now have a circle in our cell that takes us back to the palace. It's not really useful because we should be done with everything the palace has to offer by the time we get out of here. But, you know, just in case. Oh, actually, no. We have to get back here because we have to use the circle in the well later. So this was actually very useful. Now we get to one of the more complicated parts of the game. This is going to be actually fairly long-winded because this is one of the more complicated parts of the game, and there's not actually a whole lot of gameplay in this part in this video because there's a few things I have to explain. Actually, let's just go along and I'll explain the other relevant part when it actually becomes relevant. So let's go northeast. Audience chamber. The good news is that this hall is intoxicatingly beautiful, laid with the snow-white fur of the rare Martian velvet worm, and endowed with platinum arches and balustrades. Silky curtains embrace openings to the south, southwest, and west. The bad news is that no man has ever entered the audience chamber of the Sultan and departed alive. The Sultan is here, enthroned. Trent follows you. Ah, says the Sultan, a visitor. This is pleasing. It was turning out to be a very dull morning. He clears his throat. The rules. I will pose a riddle. If you answer it correctly, you may spend 1 hour with any of my wives. If you answer incorrectly, you will die. If you do not answer, you will die. If you enter the harem before answering, you will die. If you attempt to leave, you will die. If you touch me in any way, you will die. If I happen to sneeze, you will die. If any situation not covered by the rules occurs, you will die. He motions to one of the palace eunuchs. Go tell the animal tenders not to feed the tigers yet. Pause. Are you ready? Well, we don't have a choice. So let's say yes. Here, then, is the riddle. Don't strain your head. No one's ever gotten it right. You hear a growling snarl from somewhere nearby. Some say I'm pointless, yet many are obsessed by me. I have caused heroic gambles and sown endless frustration. Uncounted deaths I have caused. What am I? Trent steps briskly forward. That's easy, he yells. A grapefruit. As the eunuchs snicker behind their weapons, the Sultan cries, Wrongo! And Trent is led away. As you hear from nearby a fierce roar followed by a blood-curdling scream, your eyes filled with tears. You hang your head in sorrow for a moment to honor your brave, loyal companion who gave his life, that humanity might be saved from the terrible scourge of the leather goddesses of Phobos. Your turn to guess, says the Sultan. Again, took me forever to guess this. Actually, I didn't guess this. I had to look it up in the hint book because I'm an idiot. But the answer to this riddle, some say I'm pointless, yet many are obsessed by me. I've caused heroic gambles and sown endless frustration. Uncounted deaths I've caused. What am I? Say, riddle. You are a riddle. The Sultan looks crestfallen. Yes, that's right. The Sultan is struck by a thought. Can we kill him anyway? He begins arguing loudly with one of his legal advisors. This might be a good time to make a beeline for the harem to the west. Actually, this may be a good time to end this video. So I'll thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next part. So until then, have a good one.